So next up we have the legendary Orc champion Artek. So I recently discovered, I've been told by my clanmates, that this the father of Galek is actually a whip-cracking champion and is really quite good, which is interesting for me because I always thought he was just like almost meat, like not very useful. He doesn't. He's multiplier. He's a HP champion, so he deals damage based on his HP. He's got reasonably high HP. Of course, he doesn't need attack. He's got defense is alright. So he came out because of Call of the Arbiter. He was from the first episode. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think he tried to kill Galek or something because Galek went to help the Arbiter and the humans. But let's get on to skills. So we've got Chaos Razor. Interesting. Attacks all enemies. Has a 35% chance to extend the duration of any HP burn debuffs on each target by 1 turn. Damage based on HP. So that fully books to a 45% chance, and that's on all enemies. So that's really handy with his Seal Purifier. That's a mouthful. But we'll get to that in a bit. So we've got Dogs of War. Attacks all enemies. Before attacking, it instantly activates any HP burn debuffs on each enemy. Has a 75% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. So the activate HP burn is good if you're not using Geomancer, because you don't want to activate his HP burn or else his reflect damage is useless. So it books down to a 3-turn cooldown and 100% chance for the decreased attack. The decreased attack is pretty good, and it's a mediumly hard hitting skill. So he's pretty good for dungeons because you've got his decreased attack and on 3 turns, and then you've got his increased debuff duration. Also, as a tank, he can survive a lot more hits. It's got some skulls here. I wonder who they're from. So then you've got Purifier. Attacks all enemies 2 times. The first hit has a 75% chance of placing a HP burn debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Restores this champion's destroyed max HP by 10% for each HP burn debuff placed by this skill. Heals this champion by 5% of their max HP for each HP burn debuff attempt blocked or resisted by the enemy team. Damage based on HP. So that's fully booked to places a HP burn on the first hit. And then that's 3-turn cooldown again, which is pretty good. So HP burn on everyone for the first hit, and if it's resisted, so the not Englishing. My English is not Englishing. Restored destroyed max HP is handy for something like Hydra when you've got the Head of Decay, because he destroys max HP every time you heal, and the heal is pretty good, but you don't want the heal because that means a HP burn's been resisted. So especially good for like Hydra and Spider, because the Hydra, you get most of your damage from HP burn unless you've got some really hard hitting nukers and or Wixwell. And then Spider, all the minions damage the Spiderlings, damage the Spider Queen, so it's really handy to have. And then, so it's, all in all, you got pretty good skills. Like, the reason I thought he was, so, like, medium is because he didn't seem to be focused on a specific area. Like, he's got HP burn and activate HP burn and increase HP burn duration, but he doesn't, like, they're all HP burn, but it's just, I don't know, at the time I just don't think I was paying much attention to Hydra, because I got him quite early on in my time. So then we've got his passive, Burning Blood. So at level 1 it can't be leveled up. Whenever a HP burn debuff is activated, destroys this champion's max HP by 5%, stacks up to 50%. Increases this champion's crit damage, crit damage, and defense by 1% for each 1% of their destroyed max HP. also increases this champion's speed and resistance by 2 for each 1% of their destroyed max HP. So what you could do is you could get his if he had nice attack, you could get all his HP burns activated, get his max HP destroyed as much as you can, and then this would also activate for Hydra because of his destroyed max HP, so that works. So if he's destroyed max HP, you want to keep that so he hits a lot harder and he's got higher speed and resistance, which is also handy for the Hydra. So he's good for Hydra, and resistance is also good for Spider, so he really is quite a good champion when you take a look at him closely, and I'm glad I saw that, because now I know I got another good champion to max. If you look at the reviews, like, he's doesn't only finite because he barely attacks, and arena he's 4.4. He's not very good at arena because he doesn't have any really hard hitting skills, because it's quite hard to get a HP champion to nuke really hard. That's for really end game players. Yeah. So next we have, I can't even remember, Ultimate Death Knight. Alright, so now we've got Ultimate Death Knight, a champion that unfortunately I do not have. So Ultimate Death Knight, apart from being an incredibly cool looking champion with the most ridiculous animation ever, is one of the game's metas, actually. He is a variant of the common Death Knight, and is so incredibly powerful that, like, they had to create several champions chases after that to nullify his effects, and they nerfed him as well. So he's a defense champion. He hits based on defense, but his base defense is not actually all. It's mediumly high, but I think he also does damage based on HP as well. So we've got for one of his hits. Oh no, they got rid of that. Never mind. So Heckler of Legends. There's a reason for that. Attacks one enemy, 70% chance of placing a provoked debuff for one turn. The chance increases to 55% against legendary champions, damage based on defense. So when you fully book that, that's 50% just normal, and then increases to 75% against legendary champions, which is pretty darn annoying because most of your champions in Arena will be legendary, unless you're lucky enough or pay enough money to get a mythic, which is not me yet. Hopefully. So then we've got Rats Off to Ya. Attacks all enemies. 80% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Also has an 80% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn on each legendary champion. So that becomes 100% chance for both debuffs. Damage based on defense. So the decrease attack is a good enough debuff. And then you've got the fear on legendary champions. Now, fear is like a stun. It's a 50% chance of missing the turn. It's not as good as true fear, but it's still, I think there's a blessing that means you have a percent chance of casting the powerful version, or I can't remember if it works for fear, but on a 3-turn cooldown and 100% chance, legendary champions, like I said, most of your champions will be legendary unless you're running like a Man-Eater and, like, I don't know, Man-Eater and someone like, I can't remember, Madame Seri or something like that. But, still, it's a really good skill. It doesn't hit all that hard unless you beef his defense a lot. Defense champions have a, higher multiplier than HP champions, but I think it's still lower than attack champions. But since their defense is similar to an attack champion's attack, they deal a bit more damage than HP champions. Then you've got Get Comfy Everyone. So this is on a 5-turn cooldown in the beginning, but it can be booked to 3 turns, which is really powerful because it places a shield buff and a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of this shield is proportional to this champion's defense. Now that's pretty good because I'm pretty sure his defense, like or the multiplier is actually quite high. So you can get a pretty good shield off that, which is another reason he's so powerful, because shield is the most annoying buff in the game, apart from unkillable. So then 2 awesome to die. Whenever an ally is attacked, has a 100% chance of completely blocking one hit, decreasing the incoming damage to 0. This champion will receive that damage instead. We'll also redirect any debuffs from the hit to this champion. The chance of blocking a hit and redirecting the debuffs decreases to 50% if the attacker is a boss. Does not work if the attack on the ally was an AoE attack. So that means that your one hitters, like Rotos, for instance. A Rotos is such a powerful nuker, but he only hits once, is the thing. So you got a lot of nukers that only hit once, and that is a problem against this guy, because he is Force and a Defensor, meaning he's quite hard to kill as it is, but since he's Force, a lot of nukers are weak. Like, you got Trundar, although she hits twice, which is good. But then you got, like, Ninja, you've got, like I said, Rotos. It means that they will always hit him instead of the person you were trying to kill. And the debuff will be put on him, which is meh. And the thing about the 50% if the attacker is a boss is not many bosses attack one ally. I think it's really only like the Phantom Shogun and the Demon Lord does it once. I think once every 3 turns. That's about it. So it's not incredibly handy. But then we've got the powerful part that this used to be absolutely unfair. Used to be whenever so now I'll read it now. Whenever an enemy is heals this champion by 20% of that heal. Used to be 100%, I'm pretty sure, or at least like 50%. So it was absolutely unfair, because when you got people with lifesteal, they damage him and he basically just heals what you damaged. Now that's still pretty powerful, because say you got like a healer, right? You're all about to die. You get like an Ugo or someone and do a big 30% max HP heal, like 30,000 heal. He just heals 20% of that, and so you got to wipe him out without healing, which is incredibly annoying. Then you've got increases this champion. Didn't need him. Increases this champion's HP, defense, and speed by 10% for each dead ally. So that's pretty good, because it contradicts with his takes the first hit though. So it basically means that all your allies need to be wiped out by an AoE, and then that boosts his stats by a lot. So it's still good. Like, it means if you've lost 2 of your nukers, he's got 20% extra HP, defense, and speed, so he's a lot harder to take out, so at least he can take the hits instead of your reviver, which is incredibly annoying. And then you've got his aura, increases ally defense in all battles by 30%. So he is altogether a meta that he's been power crept by people like Wixwell and Armans. Armans is so powerful. Like, talk to most people, and even the people that have him agree that he's so powerful. He's one of the most annoying champions in the game. He can solo entire teams in Arena, because he has a skill that stuns everyone and fully decreases their turn meter on like a 2 or 3 turn cooldown. And he boosts his turn meter every time he hits or someone under stun or something. So you just beef his speed, and he is unfair. So it's actually quite a shame, because Armans was a fusion, right? So while a lot of people have him, all the good people have him, and none of the beginners, which is sad. But so he still hasn't been completely power crept. He's been nerfed. He's been power crept. He's had people basically made to defeat him, and he is still a legendary champion. Ultimate Death Knight makes the word legendary look good, is all I can say. Except with his animation. Makes him look ridiculous. Used to be funnier. He used to fall over. But, oh well. You get what you get. Now we have the legendary champion I mentioned earlier, Ninja. Nice, cool guy, sort of. Interesting thing is he's got 1 wing, which I find very interesting, because what's the point of having 1 wing? Like, Anyone will tell you a bird can't fly with only one wing. And he's frosty, right? Like, one of his arms is blue, so I get the fact that he's, like, kind of half eagle or something, but he has a skill that does HP burn, which kind of contradicts with the fact that he looks like an ice guy, which is interesting. And he's got a silly little katana. It's not even very big, with a hollow hilt. But this guy was reduced as a chase, I think, right before Ultimate Death Knight. He is a pretty good champion. He's an attack, so he, with his nice blue hair, or interesting blue hair, packs a bit of a wallop, actually. He's been power crept like most of the other chasers with all these new champions, like previously mentioned Armans and Wixwell. What can I say? They're beyond meta. They're actually unfair. Hell Hades has a video that shows how Wixwell and a few other champions can cause you to deal 1.6 billion damage. 1.6 billion damage to Ultra Nightmare Hydra in one hit because of Wixwell. It takes a while, and I think you have to do it on manual, but you can one key any boss with that, even do it on Hydra, and you've won. Like, 1.6 billion is so much overkill. It's a waste of time. Like, if you haven't, like I said, Hell Hades has got a video on that. If you haven't checked him out, go give him a look. He's a professional one. One of the reasons I became a YouTuber in the first place. So he's an attacker. He's got good, nice, high attack, low defense, average speed, and decent HP. So he's got reasonable base stats. He's, not actually bad. So he's got attacks one enemy, Shadow Bolt. Has a 45% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Also fills this champion's turn meter by 15% when used against bosses, which is actually quite good, decreased defense, and the filled turn meter. So when fully booked, that becomes a 60% chance of a 60% decreased defense. 60, ha ha ha. Damage based on attack. The multiplier is pretty high. The only thing that could make that skill more OP, I think, would be placing the decreased defense and then attacking. I think someone should have that, because it's quite handy. And it means he can get his heal up, if he's got lifesteal. Then he can get a nice heal. But it's still really good. And at 2 turns, a lot of people only place a debuff for 1 turn for their normal hit, which is also good. Just got to say, it's interesting he has a katana, but he never, ever uses it. Which is also quite interesting. I'm getting distracted. Back to the topic. We've got Hail Burn. Attacks 3 times at random. I used to think it was just, attacks one enemy, deals attacks extra times, but it's because I could have sworn it attacked more than 3 times, but I learned he's not as OP as I thought he was, which is doesn't really change much because he still wipes out my entire team, so haha. So we've got each unit has a 75% chance of placing a HP burn debuff for 3 turns. So that becomes 100% chance. Also places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns. When used against bosses, will instantly activate any HP burn debuffs, including HP burn debuffs placed by this skill. So don't pair him with Geo again. Or actually, you could pair him with what's his name, Arctic. That'd still be pretty handy. Where's the perfect veil come in? A perfect veil, yeah. So it comes a 3-turn cooldown, which is pretty good. Then we've got Cyan Slash, which is a really annoying skill. Attacks all enemies. When fully booked, 100% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. When attacking a boss, we'll only attack the boss, not all enemies, and we'll ignore 50% of the target's defense. We'll also decrease the cooldown of the Hail Burn skill by 1 turn, meaning that if you use it in order, this has a 2-turn cooldown, which is pretty good. So freeze is not as good as stun. So the best debuff in the game is stun. It means they miss a turn. There's no downside, no catch. Freeze, you deal less damage. It's like stun, but you deal less damage to people under freeze. And sleep is another debuff similar, but if you attack someone under sleep, they wake up. Like, I think if you like someone you saw was asleep and you hit him in the face, they'd wake up, or chopped him in the head, more likely. But that's it's a video game after all, so reality doesn't really count, except in this skill. Oh, freeze. So escalation passive, so this can't be leveled up again, most passives can't. Increases ninjas' attack by 10% up to 100% and crit damage by 5% up to 25% each time a single enemy is hit by all three of ninja's active skills in a single round. This effect can occur multiple times. So basically, if you're versing a boss, so when fighting against bosses will increase his attack, so it basically just does it faster. So 20% stacks up to 100%, and crit damage by 10% stacks up to 25%. So basically, against bosses, he does, like, Sun Slash, right? And then he does Hail Burn, and then he does his normal hit, and then increases his attack by 20%, and crit damage by 10. So that's pretty good skill. I didn't check Ultimate Death Knight's reviews, but they'll tell you, like, you can check him out yourself, and he's good enough. Like, you don't even need to check. So Ninja's reviews, yeah, he's good. He's only bad at Spider's Den because just he's a nuker and he's got HP burn. Those two things don't mix for Spider because you want to keep the minions alive if you're using HP burn. But all in all, he's just another brick in the wall. No, actually, he's a very, very, very good champion. He has been power crept like all the others, like I already said, but he's still standing strong, and he actually makes the Shadowkin look good. Although, then again, Shadowkin, one of the only bad people in Shadowkin, just received a buff. We've got Jinwong, basically the shame of Shadowkin. He used to always turn his face, which didn't really help. Whenever anyone looked at him, he was horrible. Like, his reviews, look at his reviews. They're terrible. They haven't really had time to change the reviews because apparently he's received a buff. Now, so yeah, I can see he's received a buff already, but, he's not a chase champion, but he's a fragment from Doom Tower, so he's another freebie, sort of. You gotta work a bit quite hard, but he's still, I think he's from Doom Tower at least, but he's a Void. So, you think Void, right? Only from Void shards, you got 1% chance on a 2x boost to get a legendary, right? He has to be fragment summoned, but other Void legendaries. Legendary, then you got Void. That's so hard to get, and then you've got several others, not including Jinwong, that are not actually good. Which upsets the stereotype. You know, legendaries, in my opinion, legendaries, like, should be good. Legendaries should be really, really good. You shouldn't have bad legendaries. It's wrong, you know? Like, they're legendaries. Come on. They're hard enough to get as it is, and then you've got the chance of getting some rubbishy, power-crept guy from the beginning of the game that no one ever uses anymore. Ever. 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 Like, I can't say ever enough. Like, it's just, come on, Plarium. Legendaries are hard enough to get. Give those rubbishy ones a buff. Like, the Plarium have been buffing bad legendaries. Like, they've buffed Queen Eva, who used to be rubbish. That, as you've seen, they've buffed Jinwong. But that doesn't, like, they should, another good thing to do would be to massively, massively nerf Wixwell. He needs to be nerfed, and Armans. But what can I say? Well, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Please hit the like and subscribe button and comment if you really enjoyed this video. Yeah, thanks again, and see you next time.